Chapter 14. 8 Theories. I lay on my bed that night, trying to ignore the shuffling coming from less than a metre away. I could smell shampoo and hear breathing that reminded me of a restless panther. It was Cat, on the Lila where Salem had been the night before. The city noises came through the open window. Lorries pounded down the main road. Aircraft droned overhead. I imagined a great anvil-shaped cloud forming over southeast London and hot air rising in convection currents. There was an instability in the upper atmosphere. I often don't sleep at night. My brain is filled with all the strange facts about the world. I switch on my reading lamp and listen to the shipping forecast on the radio on low volume. I get out my weather books. I study the charts of isobars and isotherms. I examine photographs of what the weather leaves behind. Dried up lakes, wrecked shantytowns, mudslides, people rowing boats around the roofs of 100 their houses. And I plan how and when I will grow up. I will help repair the disasters and save their lives and their money and advise governments on how to manage the weather. But tonight I couldn't switch on the light because of Cat. I think the molecules in my brain went haywire because all I could think of were dodos chasing Lord Lucan, who was sailing away in the Mary Celeste towards an evening sky with a giant bicycle wheel for a moon. I saw Salem waving from the deck, just as he'd waved the last time before boarding his pod. I heard Aunt Gloria's voice saying it was me that had suggested going to the London Eye, when it hadn't been. I saw Mum's hand flicking me away like a fly. Ted? Cat was awake. Ted? What? Are you awake? Yes. So am I. She sat upright and saw her arm reach over for the bedside light. She switched it on and we blinked at each other. It's no good. We've got to talk. She sat with her hands clasped around her knees and her head on her kneecaps. Her strands of brown hair flopped untidily over her shoulders. I said. Yourself, she said. It took me a moment to realise she was imitating me. She smiled. Maybe if I sound like you, I'll think like you, Ted. I don't think thinking like me is better than thinking like you, I said. We listened to my alarm clock ticking. Ted, what strikes you as the oddest thing about Salem's disappearance? The fact that he disappeared from a sealed pod? I said. Cat nodded. He went up the eye and didn't come down. Definitely odd, I said. And nobody else, not the police, nor Mum, or Dad, nor Auntie Glo, seemed to realise how odd. They all ignore what we keep telling them and make out that we weren't just paying attention and missed him somehow. But that's not possible, is it? Possible, yes. Probable, no, I said. We saw 2 capsules empty before his came down and several after. I timed how long he was up there with my watch. There was only a small margin of error possible. So what happened? Where did he get to? I have 8 different theories, I said. Cat was impressed. 8 different theories? 8. One of them must be correct, unless there's one or more theories I'm missing. What if I write them down? Cat grabbed a piece of paper from my desk and I dictated to her the following list. This is what Cat wrote with her own comment after each theory, saying how likely she thought it was. Number 1. Salem hid in the pod, under the seat maybe, and went round 3 or more times getting out when we'd given up looking. Just possible, worth checking out. Number 2. Ted's watch went wrong. Salem got out of his pod when we weren't there to meet him. Unlikely. Just check Ted's watch, 23:43. His alarm clock says the same. It's keeping perfect time. Ted said he checked it 5 times against Big Ben while we were out today. Number 3. Salem got out of his pod, but we missed him somehow, by accident, and he didn't see us either. What parents and police think, but we only think there's a 2% chance. We both kept a lookout on everybody that came out, and there were never many people at once. Salem would have had to have missed us too, unless... Number 4. Salem either deliberately avoided us or was suffering from amnesia, memory loss. This theory means that he must have either wanted to run away or was perhaps knocked on the head and somehow forgot about us. But we were standing there, looking at everybody as they came off, and we still don't know how we'd have missed him even if he didn't want us to see him, or forgot what we looked like. So really as unlikely as 3. Number 5. Salem spontaneously combusted. I've never heard of this, but Ted seems to think people sometimes vanish into a puff of smoke. He says it's rare, but a documented phenomenon, and works like a local thunderstorms. Not likely. Hardly counts. Number 6. Salem emerged from the pod in disguise. Possible, but going by the other people who got out of the pod, the Japanese tourists, women, tiny children, highly improbable. The person who looked most like Salem was the boyfriend of the girl in the pink jacket, but he was plumper, with a much fuller face. Definitely not sailing. Anyway, how would you have changed clothes without anybody in the tiny pod noticing? Number 7. Sailing went into a time warp. He could be stranded in another time or even a parallel universe. Probability factor 0, as with theory 5. Number 8. Salem emerged from the pod hiding beneath somebody else's clothes. When we got to the last theory, Kat looked at me over the top of her pen. She didn't even bother writing down her comment. You remember how Lauren and Hardy almost get out of the Foreign Legion camp in The Flying Juices? I said. It's the film we watch with Dad every Christmas. Ollie, the fat one, is heartbroken because the girl he loves doesn't love him, and he wants to forget her, and a man tells him that if he rejoins the Foreign Legion, he will forget her. So he joins the Foreign Legion, and Stan and the thin one joins too. But the Foreign Legion is not very nice. They have to wash an endless mountain of clothes, which would take the rest of their lives to do, so they decide to escape. Don't you remember? I said. They hide in the robes of these Arab men as they're walking towards the gates. I remember, Kat said, and that's the daftest of the lot. But you remember those African women? I said. They had long flowing robes, and there was a big man in a long raincoat. Okay, she rolled her eyes, so that I could see the only whites. She then wrote down after the theory, can Ted hide in my clothes without Mum noticing? I don't think so, but we can try. Kat looked over the list. They were not very promising. Are you sure there aren't any better theories? Otherwise, we're just going to have to accept that the police and all are right. I thought hard. Then I had what people call an inspiration. An inspiration is an idea that seems to come from nowhere. In the olden days, people thought inspirations came from the god, or God, depending on if you were a polytheist or a monotheist, breathing an idea into your brain. There is a 9th theory, I said, my hand flapping. Not something weird, like aliens beaming Salem up into a spaceship, or him slipping between dimensions, or... No, not weird, I said. In fact, I think it's the best theory of them all. But before I could say what it was, the phone rang.